to Let's Go Live. I'm Juju Meyer, and I have with me paranormal and vampire romance author Rebecca Byron. Welcome, Rebecca.
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
I'm so excited. There's so much to talk about. And so, and we'll unpack it all. We'll get to all of it,
Awesome.
I promise. So let me ask you, what is paranormal and how is that different from vampire romance?
You
Or is
know,
it not?
that's a great question. And when I started writing, like I had to figure out what genre am I writing? And I don't know that paranormal encompasses my story, but it's probably the closest. So, it relates to all things supernatural and supernatural beings, and vampires kind of fall squarely into that. But, other paranormal romance authors write about, werewolves or shapeshifters or, what have you. So it's really kind of broad, even though it's a subgenre of romance, I guess.
Okay, so let's get into it because in the DMs we kind of chatted, and I know it's not fair to all those that are watching or listening, but she said that hers are different because they're super spice, like hot spice. So,
I mean, it's not that abnormal. I think a lot of paranormal romance authors, whatever their supernatural creature is,
yeah.
A lot of them lean into, spicy, kind of maybe smutty kind of content. But I didn't set out to write just spice. And I've read a lot of really spicy novels, paranormal and otherwise, kind of straight up, romance. Read some dark. Um, but I really intended to write a great story that was very character driven, very plot driven, mysterious, suspenseful, but on the side, there was going to be some great sex. And so that is what I set out to write. I mean, I think I nailed it. I hope I did. There's that. But I don't know that everybody really, when the readers go to read, that they're expecting this or that. And there's a lot of different reader expectations. And as a brand new newbie author, that's something that's been really interesting to me, to see that reader expectations are really all over the scale, even in this genre. And so trying to find your ideal reader is hard.
Oh, I think it's very hard. And the one thing that's good about romance readers is they are voracious and they read a lot of different types of romance. And so I feel like even though people are like dark romance or mafia, there's a lot of crossover.
And I hoped that was the case. And but when I started outreach before the book was done, I'd reach out, hey, I'm a new author, I've got a book coming out, here's what it is. I started reaching out to straight up romance readers. And I'm like, hey, I'm writing paranormal. And I'm like, no, I don't read paranormal. And I was like, okay, why is that? I do. I'm a poly, what do they call people who like different music? Polygamorous. I'm like, I'm polygenrous. I don't want to be pigeonholed. I want to read a lot of stuff. I'm a vibe reader, a mood reader. So I got a lot of, I don't read that.
Really?
But what's interesting is because I have some people behind me that help me kind of along this journey, maybe pitched for me. And a lot of them are in the straight up romance kind of space. Their word went a long way. And so these romance readers read my book and they're like, I love this. I did not expect I was going to love this so much. So it was a little bit gratifying to know that I thought people who really like romance, who are really maybe willing to step out a little bit into a different genre, would like my book. And that's been the case, but it's hard to find the ideal reader.
So Jane in the comments, she confirmed, she's like, I read everything.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and
I do too.
Yeah, I tend to find that a lot of them do cross over. So it's interesting. Now, tell us the name of your book and the premise, and no spoilers.
Okay, yeah, no spoilers. I'll stop, when I get to spoiler alert territory. So the book is A Memory Not Mine, and my female main character is Mira Garvey. She is a jewelry designer, and she's recently lost her parents. She lives in Boston, but she's clairvoyant. Like, she's able to touch things and get a sense, see visions of people that were associated to that item. And her family were in the estate jewelry business. So they bought and sold old jewelry. So she came in contact with things that carried these memories. And so,
Very cool.
Yeah. So this would happen to her a lot. But she's like, I don't know how I feel about this. This is actually kind of inconvenient. This has never done anything great for me. More of a weird party trick, maybe. So she never really embraced it. Parents die in a car accident, so she's going through their stuff, and she finds a very small portrait miniature of a woman that looks just like her. It's a distant family member on her dad's side. Picture was painted in the late 1700s. So she touches this painting and has like the most intense vision she's ever had. And she starts having nightmares additionally. And she's seeing a very like dark, malicious kind of figure that was stalking this woman who looked like her from the past. And she also had these very positive visions of another man. She never really sees his face, but like she can tell like there was great love there. So she has an opportunity to go to Scotland. That's where her dad was from. That's the clairvoyant side of the family. And she's connected with some relatives through ancestry DNA. So she's got like a work situation that she's going to go there, but she's also going to do some research while she's there. So she gets to meet with her Garvey relatives from Scotland, and they are a line of the family that have very much embraced their clairvoyant abilities. Like, they're like, this is a superpower. We can tell you're not okay with it, but you need to lean into this. And she's still pretty ambivalent about that. She also meets with an art historian because she wants to learn more about this painting. And that's kind of where the mystery starts. So the art historian tells her, this is really strange, but I've seen several of these portraits, and I know they're painted by the same artist, but I've never known who it was. In fact, there's like some down in the Royal Portrait Gallery in Edinburgh. Let's go check them out. But here's the weird part. They span like 300 years. And, I would bet my credentials on that they were painted by the same person, but, they can't be. And I actually can't tell people that because I'd never, work another day because my reputation's everything. So she's like, that's weird. And he goes, hey, you gave me the name of this woman in the portrait, and I found a grave on the Isle of Arran, which is an island off the west coast of Scotland. So she's like, I'm here, I'm going to go check it out. So she drives there, finds the grave, has an intense vision when she touches it. Like, clearly, this is the person associated with the painting. And she wakes up on the couch in a stone cottage, and there's a man there, like, intensely looking at her. She realizes she's passed out again. He's a little grumpy. Like, he's not sure he really wants her to be in the cottage. And yet he kind of he's worried about her. He's like, hey, I want to walk you back to the hotel. And, they start talking, and she feels this intense pull with this guy, and she tells him everything. And that's kind of the meet cute. So he's kind of the love interest. And if I go any further, there's going to be some spoilers. So please read the book and find out.
Well, I do think I can say one thing because there was a new description. It's a triangle, correct? A love triangle.
It is. So, she ends up back in Edinburgh because she has this work situation, and a man starts following her, and she recognizes him as seeing him multiple times a day. He's following her. And then she realizes when she sees him that he is the guy that she's having these nightmares about. And she knows that he's connected somehow to Agnes, who's the woman in the painting, her distant relative 7 generations back. So that is the kind of malicious entity who's following her, and she, she's very freaked out by that. So that story, and I like it. don't want to tell anymore because there's spoilers. But that's kind of the villain or the anti-hero in the story. But we learn more about him and his situation and his connection, and it's an emotionally rich story.
So, Jane in the comments again, she says, sounds good. And it does sound so intriguing.
Thanks.
So, where did this story come from? It is your first debut novel, which is very exciting. Congratulations.
It is. Thank you. My husband, when I told him, hey, I'm writing a book, he goes, okay, did I know that you wanted to be a writer? I'm like,
did I miss something?
Yeah, no, I've actually never talked about that. So when I was 19, I'm been a romance fan since I was a teen, and I decided, oh, gosh, it'd be so great to be a romance writer. So I, like, back in the day, I like had notebook paper and I wrote probably 3 pages back and front, dotted all my I's with hearts as teenage girls do. And that was my attempt. And I like read it and I'm like, this is terrible. And I ripped it out and threw it in the trash.
Of course.
And did not think about it again for 30 plus years. I don't want to, disclose my age. And if you read my bio, I have a thing about vampires. And so my husband goes on a trip every year for 2 weeks and I watch vampire movies. Well, this past year, I didn't. I went down a very deep Kindle Unlimited rabbit hole reading vampire books. And I read a bunch of great ones, but I never read the story I was looking to read.
Yours.
Well, so I have a friend who is an author, a nonfiction author, and she and I were talking around this time, and I had just read Fourth Wing and finished Onyx Storm, and she reads fantasy too, and we were kind of chatting about that. She had said, she goes, so one of these days I want to write fantasy when I stop, writing nonfiction. And I go, I've been reading a bunch of vampire books and I cannot find the kind of story I'm looking for.
Yeah.
And I think I could write one. And she just said, stop. Hang up the phone when we get done. And I want you to go upstairs. She knows my office is upstairs. She goes, I want you to go upstairs and just start writing.
Ooh,
she's like, I want you to write until you can't write anymore. And then read it. If it's interesting, great, keep going. If it's not, then, stop. She goes, but I think you need to try this. And I'm like, okay. It was like the universe like pushed me. And I did. I went upstairs and I just started writing. Like before I knew it, I had 10,000 words. I didn't even tell my husband. So like on day 3, I came downstairs and finally confessed to my husband because I felt like I was cheating on him. And I'm like, hey, I'm writing a book. And that's when he was like, is this some new dream? It's crazy. So I just started writing, and before I knew it, I had 40,000 words. And I'm savvy enough to know that as a complete noob, I needed help. So I went to Reedsy and I posted my project, and I was looking for a developmental editor. And I got a bunch of people that looked kind of at my little blurb, because I wrote a blurb, and I provided a 10,000 word sample, and I got a lot of people like, oh, we want to work with you. This is going to be fabulous. And I went out and I looked at their portfolio, and those books maybe like had 20 reviews or maybe 100 reviews. But one of the editors I picked, she had 0 reviews on Reedsy, but her portfolio included Sierra Simone, Megan Quinn, Nadia Lee, like romance authors who have 20, 40, 50,000 reviews. And I'm like, I want to talk to this lady.
Yeah,
so she did respond, and she was, not super positive at first.
Oh
no. But hey, that was awesome. That's exactly what I needed. I'm like, hey, I'm a newbie author who absolutely knows nothing. I think I have this story and I need some help. And she's like, well, I do work with some first-time authors, but I might not be the right one for you because I'm not going to coddle you. Like, I'm going to tell you if you're a terrible writer. And she's like, I'll try and help you become a better writer. But if your story's terrible, I'm going to tell you. If your character needs to die, I'm going to tell you. And I'm like, I need this lady. So I picked her. And she, like, it was like the universe sent me a fairy book mother to help guide me on this journey. And so she took the whole 40,000 words and kind of digested it over maybe 4 or 5 days and got back to me. And she goes, okay, first, the good news. You're a decent writer and you have a story. She's like, I like this. She's like, here's all the bad news. You write like a historical fiction writer. You've picked, paranormal romance. 90% of those books or more are written in first person point of view.
Yes.
And your story doesn't start until about page 30 with what you've got right now. She's like, everything else that you've got is backstory. She goes, and it's not wasted because you're going to use this. It's character development and you'll sprinkle in parts of it, but no one will read all that crap. Like
Yeah.
they won't. Okay, lady, and this might be the time when we part ways because I don't know how you're going to react. And I was like, okay. And I'm like, I take direction pretty well. So I went, back to the drawing board and did what she said, like carved out a lot, changed the point of view. And I got, about 20,000 words in and I sent it back to her and I was like, she's going to hate this. And she's like, this is fantastic. And so like, that was all I needed to hear. I'm like, oh yes, I got some positive feedback. So, it was the start of an incredibly important, kind of helpmate on my journey. And I could not have done it without her. And the most amazing part is like when we got done with the book and the revisions and like she's very direct. She'd go, hey, this section right here, I don't understand her reaction. Like you haven't written anything that makes me understand this outsized reaction she had. So I go, well, here's what she's thinking. And she's like, I get it now. You didn't say that. So I'd go back, and like retool it. But when we got done with the book, she totally kind of transitioned and went, now I'm going to talk to you about how to self-publish, because she started this is another thing. She's not just a developmental editor. She also has published 50 books. She writes under 2 different pen names. She's small town romance kind of stuff and mysteries. And she said, I started as traditionally published with a publishing house, had an agent. She's like, and about 10 years ago, I just decided that I was going to self-publish. And she's like, and that's what I've been doing since. So when I got the book done, she's like, here's everything that you need to know about publishing a book. Like, here's how I would market this. Here's how I would do, your arcs. And, maybe you're not ready for a street team, but on book 2, you need to have a street team. And here's who you need to talk to. And you need to do a BookBub featured deal if you can get one. Apply for one, you won't get it as a brand new author. Newsflash, I got it on Monday. And so like, she's just been so helpful and I could not thank her. If I thanked her 1,000 times, it would not be enough. She's incredible.
Oh, that's amazing. How did you even come across her?
On Reedsy, which is so weird because my husband and I were laying in bed one night and a Reedsy commercial comes on, and it's a platform for authors to hire editors, marketing folks, cover designers, all that kind of stuff. It's kind of, like that. So we were laying in bed one night. I'm like, oh, Reedsy. And he goes, what is that? I'm like, oh, that's where I found my editor. So it's weird.
I think those are synchronicities of the universe, or they're like check-ins with you're on the right path.
That is absolutely true. And last week, I didn't know you. And I was on a work trip. And, when you're on a work trip, you're like, how do I find time to market the book that I launched the week prior? So you're up at 4:30 in the morning and you're doing some social media, and you're doing the social media when you get back to the hotel, like from, 8:30 to 10:30. And it was 4:30 in the morning. Maybe I saw something about you and I'm like, oh, you know what? I'd like to do a live or a podcast. That'd be a great way to promote. And then next thing I know, like I follow you, and then that afternoon you're like, hey, do you want to be on my live? And I'm like, universe is working overtime.
And to your point, Rebecca, I had a cancellation. So
yeah,
I told you it was going to be like now or like December.
Right. So, so let me tell you how important this is to me. My whole family were big Buffalo Bills fans, and there's a Buffalo Bills game tonight, and the neighbors are over with my husband outside the door watching the Bills game.
So you're dedicated.
I almost wore a Bills t-shirt, and I'm like, I know, I just can't. I can't do
it. You're like, I got to keep my life separate. This is my author profile.
Yeah.
Super serious.
Very serious, yes. Also, I don't do serious very well, so.
I love that. Okay, so this book, where did your inspiration come from? Because it seems so richly written.
Well, I mean, like I said, I love historical fiction. I went to Scotland when I was 14. I've been a little bit of a, Anglophile, all things, Great Britain. One of my favorite books of all times is Outlander. I'm a huge Diana Gabaldon fan. I resisted reading that book for a long time. Like my mom told me in 2000 or 2001, you got to read this book. And I'm like, I don't like time travel. No, I don't want to read it. But I was at an airport. I've obviously traveled a lot for work in my life. And I saw it on a shelf and I'm like, all right, fine, I'll read it. Still probably one of the top 5 books I've ever read.
100%.
Fell in love with that love story. I love that time period. It's just, gothic and cool. And so that's where I decided to set it. But, when you talk about like, what's the little seed that gets planted in your head? I was reading all these vampire books and out of nowhere, I'm just looking at my phone, looking at the news or whatever. And, you get weird things that pop up on MSN. And there was like top 200 traditional Scottish boy names. And like the thought in my head was, you know what, if I wrote this vampire book and it was set in Scotland, I'd need to pick a name for my character. So I clicked the link and all these cool names came up and I started writing the names down. And then I'm like, I'd have to pick some girl names. So like I went and found the girl names and like that was really like the kernel, the nugget that started everything. Then I started doing research. When would it be set? Where would it be set? So it kind of went from there.
Fun stuff, because that's when like the world is your oyster, so to speak, with writing, where everything is possible. You just have the very beginning of a story in your mind, and you're like, I have no idea where we're going to go or how it's going to end up.
Yep. I have, like I said, I'm very new at this, but I have kind of figured out like how I operate now. I'm into book 2. I have a high level idea of where it's going to go. And then I just start writing. So I'm a little bit of a pantser from that standpoint. And I get to a point where I'm like, okay, if I continue, we could go down some unproductive rabbit holes. So I'll get probably 25, 30% in and I stop and I go, I really like this. And I'm going to outline from here. So I have some structure for the rest of the story. And that's what I've been doing for the last 2 books. So I probably will keep it up.
Well, and I like your comment because you said, now I know what kind of a writer I am. And I feel like that first book is us fumbling around in the dark looking for the light switch, right?
Absolutely.
Not only do we not know the story we want to tell, we have a general basis, but you also don't know if you're a night writer, a morning writer. Are you a first person, a third person? Are you good at banter or dialogue or narrative or description? And so it's all figuring all that out. With that in mind, how long did it take you to write this first book?
I started sometime early in March. You start
of this
writing
year?
stuff and I started in March and I finished the book the last week of July. So it was a very fast write, but I'm very ADHD. So when I find something that I'm super passionate about, like every waking hour that's not working is devoted to that. And I was writing 2 hours every morning before work started. I would maybe edit during lunch if I had a free hour, and then a couple hours after work. And then on the weekends, like I might write 10 hours between Saturday and Sunday. And I'm energized by that. Like it was fun. It was like a joyous process. There was never anything about it that was ugh, yuck, I hate this. Even like their thought of like, I need to go rewrite this section, and I'm not super excited about doing that. But once you get doing it, I'm like,
Mhm.
no, this is still awesome. I still love this. So my big challenge now with book two is I'm trying to promote this book. It's finding time to write as you're trying to promote, and that is really been a challenge. Also, I have a regular day job, so it's hard. And a husband and a grown daughter, and my husband has a daughter, and she has two little boys, so we have grandkids, and trying to do all like normal life stuff too. It's hard.
Oh, 100%. I madly respect those that are working full time, holding down a household. You want to stay married because you love them.
Hmm.
But also, you do have this call to write because the story doesn't end, right? It just keeps,
Hmm.
the longer we're away from it, the more it just brews in there.
Yeah.
And you're like, I've got to get this out.
I am so lucky to have a super supportive husband who he's retired, and so he takes a lot of the day-to-day burdens off me. Like he does all the grocery shopping. He does almost all the cooking. And
Nice.
so he does all the laundry. Like that kind of stuff gives me the ability to do this. And I don't think if I didn't have that situation, I don't think I would be here talking to you right now. So
Rebecca, everyone wants to know how they get their husbands like that.
So I found him on eHarmony. So just FYI.
Oh, that's so cute. Hey, that's an ad for that dating application
It
app.
is, yeah.
So you wrote that one incredibly fast. Also, this is while you're working with that developmental editor. So she must have turned it around for you pretty quick too, because some of those that are
Yeah.
working with the really high name authors, they don't have availability this year or into 2026. They're so
So
booked.
that was one of the things I was super afraid about because she
Mhm.
she doesn't do like proofreading. So she's like, you're gonna have to hire a proofreader. She's
Yep.
like, and this is the person I typically use, and she books 4 months in advance. But she had a backup, and the backup had availability. And so from the end of July when it was done, I had it back within 2 weeks. And so that allowed me to, because I already had arcs and stuff out, so I had people reading it.
Mhm.
But so that was why it was a quick turnaround.
So you've started book two,
Hmm.
yes? Will it be as long, do you think? Because I know you're a pantser.
So this first book clocked in at about 83,000 words.
Mhm.
Um, so book two is a dual timeline though, and I have a sneaking suspicion it might be a little bit longer. We might be 95,000 words. So I don't know. We'll see.
Well, I like how you said though that you start off pantsy because it's one of the things, right? We try to figure out. There are some people that are, I mean, just you run the gamut. For those that are new and aspiring authors that are listening, you have people that plot and they know exactly what's going to happen. They
Hmm.
never deviate. You have those that plot and then the magic takes over and then they turn into a little bit of pantsy. And then you have those that are straight pantsers. And so it's interesting that you said you're now a mix of both. Was it because of learning yourself, or was it because working with the developmental editor, she's kind of like, hey, we need a roadmap of where you're going?
No, she, like I said, I'd written 40,000 words. Um, and she said to me, I would like to see your outline. And so I outlined it for her. And so she reviewed it and she's like, she had some feedback. So then, I went back to writing. Maybe I was halfway in and I went back to her and I said, hey, I've deviated from the outline. She's like, I will never look at your outline again. She's like, that was just for you. She's like, it doesn't matter.
Oh, okay.
So, and what's interesting is like she and I are a lot alike because I'm like, yeah, my husband and I go walking with the dog every morning, like at 5 o'clock in the morning, and I think about the book while I'm walking the dog. She's like, I do the exact same thing, and she's like, and I am like you. My ideas come. I'm a pantser. I let it fly until some point where I feel like I need some structure. She goes, and then I outline, and so just I don't know, serendipitously we're very similar from that standpoint, but it was good validation to know that it's not wrong the way I'm doing it, the way that works for me, and that, like you said, writers all kind of approach it differently and just whatever works.
Well, that's why I have always liked doing these interviews, because there's no one right way to write a book. There are several different ways. You have to figure out what's going to work for your creativity, your time constraints, your lifestyle, your family, your work schedule. So I've taken enough courses where like, this is the only way. And I think, oh my gosh, that's so not true. And then all of us writers have enough guilt. We're either not writing enough, descriptive enough, enough word count, enough hours. You know, we always have this measurement.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think throw all that out, because it doesn't matter. It's just however it works best for you. And as a pantser, I say this all the time, and you can understand because you're a writer. And anyone that writes, whether you write for yourself privately that no eyes will ever see, or if you write and you're published, at some point your characters take over and they start telling the story for you. And if you've ever written a book, fiction, I should say, I don't know how it works for nonfiction, but fiction, it happens. And people think like, you are crazy. What are you talking about? You're the author. You're the one writing it. And you're like, not really. I'm a court reporter. I'm a stenographer dictating what to think.
I got to a point where I was asking myself a question. Like, why did Mira go to Scotland?
Mm-hmm.
And I was trying to answer that question, and I wasn't sure, like, I was believing the answer. So I made my characters ask, like, Baird asked Mira that question, and Mira had to sit with it and think about it. And I figured out that if I'm struggling with something, I can ask my characters to work it out, and it makes sense for me. And then I know how to approach it. Like, that dialogue might not ever make it into the book, but it works it out for me in my head. And I did that more than once on the book.
I love that you're like, everybody, we got a problem, circle around.
Characters, circle around, we got to talk.
That's so great. Jane said, when I'm a beta reader and an author knows her beginning and end, but as a pantsing, I help out by polishing those. Oh, and inspiration comes when it comes. She's so right. That's exactly the case. And so sometimes I think, too, the advice I always give is when I try and force it to stay within my outline, it feels, the writing, in my opinion, feels forced. But when I let those characters just run wild and I'm like, oh my God, where are we going? It ends up being either outlandish or ridiculous, but in the best possible way.
Or truly inspired. Like, oh God, yes, that's where it wanted to go, and it made sense, and it resonates, and it gives me footing for whatever comes next.
Then we sometimes write ourselves into a corner because we do let them run wild.
Can you guys hear the hollering at my house? I think the Bills might have scored a touchdown. I don't know.
I mean, that's priority. The Bills
totally, yeah.
So, where are you at in writing book 2? You've started it.
Yeah,
Are you writing as quickly?
I'm not because I don't want to or that the story's not there. It's just because I feel like I'm spending at least 2 to 3 hours a day on social media trying to promote book 1. But, you know, so what I did with book 1 was I wrote before work in the morning and I wrote after work at night and all day on Saturday and Sunday. And so now I'm trying to like be very focused. Like, this is time I'm going to dedicate to social media, or this is time I'm going to put my phone away and I'm going to write. And so the last week has been better. But the week before and the week after release, it's like crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. It's all online social media or all your marketing efforts.
Yeah.
And I know you want to be stingy with your time because we only have so much of it, right? So,
but I'm about 45,000 words in
about halfway.
to book 2. So, I mean, I'm close to halfway. So it's coming along. And I'm super excited because my husband and I are going on a 2-week Mediterranean cruise next month. And so I suspect I'll have a lot of time because there's no work where if we're just cruising, I'm going to be writing.
Is he fine with sharing you with your characters on a 2-week Mediterranean cruise though?
Yes, he's the best. Like he's super supportive.
That is awesome. That is awesome. Well, good luck to you. I know that all of us listening are officially jealous. So When you're about the halfway mark, do you send it to your developmental editor to say, hey, this is kind of where I'm going? Or do you wait until the book is completely finished, that first draft or first couple, and then show it to her?
I was so maybe insecure with, kind of what I was doing with the first book that I kind of broke it up into 25,000 word chunks, and I would send it to her.
Smart.
She turned it around pretty quickly, a week to 10 days generally. And that is always the scariest period. Like, you're like, I am awesome. This is awesome. And then you give it to someone else who's going to critique it. And,
Yep.
imposter syndrome shows up and you're like, this is terrible. She's going to tell me I'm terrible. Luckily, that didn't happen. So I sent her the first 25,000 words.
Mm-hmm.
She loved it. She didn't have a whole lot of feedback for me. I told her the areas where I just personally feel like these could be some areas I'm going to need your help with because I'm not feeling super strong about them.
Yep.
And so when I get probably another 5,000 or 6,000 more words, I'll send her that section and send it off to her. She told me, she's like, if you didn't want to send it to me in chunks, you could wait till the end and let me, absorb the whole thing. And I'm like, nah, I think I still feel better with a little bit of more immediate feedback right now. So.
Well, I agree with you. I like that concept, especially when it's good advice for new and aspiring authors also. I've written a bunch, but at the same time, it is overwhelming when you send off your whole book and then you get that whole thing back.
Yeah, right. I can only imagine. Yeah. Like, oh God, there's so much. Yeah.
All the comments, all the different color codes, all the edits, and you're just like, oh my God, I got to rewrite. So I think it's genius how you send her chunks because you're not getting too far out ahead of her with the writing, and you guys are just in sync. Like, yes, my story didn't go off the rails, or we're still in lockstep. And I find that to be not as overwhelming. I think I need to do that with mine.
It's working for me right now, so I'm gonna stick with it.
It's excellent advice though for those that want to write a book because sometimes we don't necessarily know the ending. Obviously, if you write romance, the rules are you have to have a happily for now or happily for ever. So that obviously you're like, okay, well I have that as the rule for the ending. Do I have the ending? No. But sometimes when you have that collaborative effort between you and your developmental editor, you can say, hey, I was thinking that this story would go A, and she's like, oh, what about if it went B? And it could be even better.
Yeah.
I love that. So if you are 45 in, would you have it done, you think, by Christmas? Or are you looking at like January?
Yeah, that's my goal is to have it done by year end. And then hopefully, get her feedback on it. I'm actually kind of dipping into a little bit of a different area. There's some witchcraft in book 2. And I want to be as authentic as I can. So I actually am thinking about getting some maybe Wiccan practitioners to beta for me because I want to treat that with authenticity as much as I can in a magical realism, paranormal romance kind of way.
Well, you raised a good point because when you talk about paranormal romance and fantasy kind of gets in this too.
Yeah.
Do you stick with the rules of the road as we all know it? Do you create your own rules? Is a hybrid of both? And so I think to me, it's easier when you obviously can create your own magic systems, or you can create your own rules. Or can vampires be in the sunshine? Can they not? Just all different, right? And so it's easier when you make up your own rules. I feel like your way of trying to be authentic is a lot harder because you got to do a lot of research, and then you kind of have to stick to those rules through the whole story.
Yeah, I mean, I hope I have some latitude. But, one of the things I want to investigate is some matrilineal magical traditions. And these are people, that were living in the British Isles, Scotland, Ireland, kind of during the Middle Ages. And so these are probably worshiping Celtic gods and goddesses. And so I'm diving into some research about that right now. And like I said, I want to treat that with some authenticity within reason because I am a creative, so I reserve the right to go down my own little paths and stuff. But
sure,
I want a basis in maybe real concepts, magical traditions, what have you.
Well, it's your book. You can do whatever you want, right?
Yeah.
There's a reader on here, Jane. She's in the comments, and so she is in the UK. So I don't know of Jane if you're anywhere close to, kind of the area and some of the things she's looking into, but maybe you guys can get together or Jane can reach out to you.
DM me.
Exactly. Okay, so obviously I want to have you back for when
Mm-hmm.
you release that one, whatever time that is.
I would love it.
Next year. Is this going to be a trilogy or is it
It
just
is, yeah, it is going to be a trilogy. So I have the book I'm writing right now, and the third book. Kind of, I have an outline for that one, very high level, because I reserve the right to go down different paths.
of course.
But then I have a couple other books in mind that may actually be prequels, so they'll all be maybe loosely related. I don't know. We'll see. It's when you start writing, I have found it's an interesting phenomena. But like all kinds of crazy ideas like jump into your head, and they're like fighting, they're like competing for space. And I have this thought. I'm like, I need to write about this woman that gets hit by lightning and then she can talk to animals. And I'm like, wait, but that I don't think that's really going to fit into what I'm doing right
Yeah.
now. And so what I found is like I just have to go write like a little bit about that and go, okay, idea, you're on a piece of paper, you're in a file. I'm going to come back to you. Leave me alone. I got to finish this thing over here. So it's just weird. Like so many ideas popped into my head, but that's the beauty of, being a writer. You can, entertain them.
Well, sometimes those two are palate cleansers, right? So when you kind of get hung up on your own world or there's some decisions that have to be made, you're quite not sure about what to do in your own story. When those shiny new ideas pop up, it's kind of fun to just explore those.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you work on another project, just for a small amount of time, it kind of, like I said, clears out the old and you're like, oh my gosh, I can come back with fresh eyes and like, yes, this is what's wrong.
Yeah, absolutely.
So would that be a totally different series or would you somehow tie it to this existing one?
I have a thought that there might be two other books, like I said, that are kind of loosely entwined in this universe that may be stories of some other people, related familial people in this universe, but maybe further back in time. So maybe it's an idea. There's also a character who's integral to book one that I have not really touched on. Like I kind of jumped vampirial generations because I felt like I told his story in book one, but my editor's like, I think you need to tell this story. This maybe should be a novella or something. And so I may come back and tell that story.
Well, and when you do those little novellas, it's nice because you don't leave that world.
Right.
Because I think when you have lived, it'll be what, almost a year. By the time you get them all done, you'll have lived with them for a year to 18 months. Sometimes it's hard to let go of that world that you created because they feel real to you.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. And so my male and female main characters from book one are back in book two, and picking up their story, it's like they're super good friends. Like it was just like boom, came out, but it's those new characters that you have to live with for a little while. It kind of develop some familiarity. So I'm hopeful at the end of book two, like with the new characters, I'll have that same level of familiarity and kind of bond. But yeah, you're right. Like they don't leave you when you're done with a book.
No, and the first draft is always telling yourself the story and trying to figure out who your characters are and what their nuances are and what their quirks are. But I feel like when you've gone through that, at least your first draft, and then you start going through, you're like, oh, okay, I get who these people are now. Yeah. So the old ones are old friends, and these are like new friends you're making.
Yeah.
So would you always write in the paranormal and vampire romance? Because authors do. They just niche down into,
Yeah.
and they'll
I,
crank them
I
out.
don't like to be stereotyped. I don't like to be pigeonholed. I realize that's really hard for an author who's trying to make a name in any one particular genre that wants to genre hop or blend. Makes it more challenging. And I feel like I have a whole bunch of stories that are And like I said, I don't know that you can narrowly call this paranormal because it's magical realism and, with elements of historical fiction. But I feel like I could stay kind of in this genre blend, if you will, for a
Yeah,
while.
I like that genre blend idea. So, congratulations on your BookBub deal. Do you
Thank
want to
you.
talk about that? How it came about?
Yeah, so my editor was saying, hey, these are things that you can do to promote your book. She gave me this laundry list. And she's like, "Do you know about BookBub?" I'm like, "No, I don't know about BookBub." Interestingly enough, my neighbor that's here, I was telling her when she came over, you're eating chicken wings an hour ago. I'm like, "Hey, I got a BookBub deal. You probably don't know who they are." She's like, I'm a BookBub member. I know exactly who they are."
Hey.
So my editor told me, she's like, they are this big newsletter, and they have, huge multi-million, readerships, and some very particular like genres like paranormal. They have almost 500,000 subscribers specifically for paranormal. And she's like, you get this deal, you have to discount your book for like a week, but it goes out in their newsletter and you get like premium placement, and it introduces you to a lot of readers that you might not normally see. And she
Mhm.
told me that at one time, like, BookBub was a career launcher for new authors, and maybe now it's not quite as big of a deal because there's a lot more about book talk and bookstagram that are
Yeah.
kind of taking some of that away maybe from just BookBub, but it's still important. And so she said, when you get your book done, and it's published, she's like, you should
Mhm.
apply for a feature deal. She's like, but they give precedence to best-selling authors. They give precedence to authors that have a lot of reviews. If they're a new author and they have a lot of reviews, they're going to get more traction. Um, she's like, but you should just try. She's like, you'll probably try 3 or 4 times before you get accepted. She's like, but it'll be a good experience for you. I said, okay. So like, as soon as it was released, I mean, went into BookBub, and I had set up my account, my author profile, and all that stuff. And I'm like, I'm submitting this, and so filled it all out, hit send, and I'm like, I'm sure I'm not going to get this. And Monday, I get an email, congratulations, you've been accepted. So it was super exciting. They actually placed me in a different genre, and then I freaked out about that and called my editor. She's like, you don't argue with the BookBub. You do what the BookBub
You
says. The
know,
BookBub knows. She's like, I think this actually might be a good genre for you. So she's like, just do it. So
well, interesting because if it's paranormal, where do they put you, if you don't mind
they
me asking?
put me in time travel romance, and my book is not specifically time travel. My editor says it's time travel because Mira has visions and nightmares about another woman's life from the past. I mean, very,
Sure.
very vivid, like she's living them. So
Yeah.
it's time travel like she said. So
Try-
I'm going to trust the BookBub.
Yeah, I think they have a statement on there saying that we'll put it where we want to, or we reserve the right to put it.
And maybe this is a good audience for it. I don't know. We'll find out.
Yeah. Well, and they'll let you know, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Like when she's like, we don't argue with the book bub.
That's what she said. We don't argue with the BookBub. The
Yeah,
BookBub
that's like
knows.
trying to argue with the government. You'll
Yeah.
lose. So tell us what else is in store for you. Would marketing wise, are you going to do book signings? Are you a wide
Yes.
author? Are you only to KU?
No, well, so my ebook is Kindle Unlimited. It's only on Amazon, but my print is wide, and so like I am listed on IngramSpark, and I found out yesterday that now Barnes and Noble, you can order my book on Barnes and Noble. So I just went and checked, has my IngramSpark metadata gone out on the universe? So like booksellers, because I'm in 7 independent bookstores, little bookstores, and so I wanted to let them know I don't have to ship you books now because I really want to get out of that business because it also takes up a lot of time. Like,
Yeah.
you can just order them from IngramSpark if you want to restock. And shock of all shocks, the first thing that showed up was my book in Barnes and Noble. So I was like, oh my God, that's crazy. But on my list was I want to go talk to Barnes and Noble and see if some of the stores around me would be willing to carry some. And now it's going to be a much easier conversation because it's already available on their website and they can order it wholesale. So there's that. Like I said, I'm in 7 bookstores. I was like, I'd love to be in some independent bookstores. I had a brilliant idea to ask my followers who their favorite bookstores were within like 20, 30 minutes. I had 100 suggestions, so I had a ton of engagement on that post. And I had a prospect list. And I reached out to some that I thought, looked cool, looked like they might be a good fit. And I've got 7 of them that already have my books now. Like this has all happened in the last 10 days.
That's huge.
I've got a prospect list of about 25 more that I'm doing outreach on. I have a signing scheduled for November 15th at an independent bookstore up here in Azle, Texas, which is about 15, 20 miles away. So super excited about that. Yeah, so like stuff's happening. Small stuff is happening, but good stuff. It's very exciting.
That's really exciting. Are those independent bookstores in your area, or are they across the U.S.?
No, they're across the globe. So I've got 2 of them in the United Kingdom, one in Liverpool and one near Edinburgh, Scotland. I've got one in Canada, and the rest are in the U.S. There's one in Texas, one in Arizona, one in Oklahoma. Gosh, I can't even remember them all right now.
That's so exciting.
Yeah.
Well, and to be international, so that was all because your followers sharing who, and then you cold called them or cold pitched them?
I did. I just spammed their DMs with, hey, here's some reviews so you can see I'm legit. And, I would love for you to like take a small number of my books, just try 5. And so I got some bookstores that started with 5 and they've already ordered 10 more because their customers are like, yeah, that sounds really good. I want to read that. So I am lucky. Vampire romance, especially this time of year, people are willing to read some vampire romance. And so it's worked out.
Are you shipping them to the UK and to Canada?
Well, because it's Amazon, I'm ordering the author copies and I'm having them printed and shipped in UK or Canada. And so it's prime shipping. So it's not been bad.
I know. And then you get into all that tariff talk. I have I know a lot of authors that are in Australia and they're on a ban.
Oh, it's like ridiculously expensive. So when I listed my book on IngramSpark, like I had to price it like at the paperback, like at $25.99 to not be negative if somebody bought my book. Like I think at $25.99 retail price with the wholesale discount, I like make 62 cents a book. It's like crazy. And I don't know why it's so expensive, but I've been like following some Australian and New Zealand like bookstagrammers and they're like, for a paperback here is $30 in a bookstore, a new one.
Yeah, and then they can't ship right now because I had 2 of them were doing like this big giveaway on another platform, but it had to be only ebooks because of that tariffs, and they're like, we can't ship to the U.S. right now. It's like I had no idea.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, I can hear them.
Yeah, they're excited.
So, if you could wave a wand, where would you be in a year?
Well, I definitely be done with book 2. And I don't have like grandiose author plans. I just like to have a small but dedicated following who's interested enough in my books that I can continue to write and sell my books. I think there's some people who've released books this year and have been kind of like instant successes. And I said, if 5,000 people review my book within the next couple of years, like I will have achieved my goal. Like that's it. So I don't, I'm not like, hey, I'm trying to be the next whoever. If that happens, great. But like, I will feel very accomplished and like what I did was super worthwhile. If I have a small following, I'm not doing this to make it rich. I have a great job, and I'm super happy that I have the job. I am very lucky that the job I have gives me some disposable income that I can put to promoting my book. Because there's a lot of great authors out there that I've met recently who are either really young and don't have that kind of disposable income that they can go, hey, I'm hiring a developmental editor and it's costing me $1,000, or I'm going to have somebody proofread my book and it's $600,
Yep.
or I'm spending $1,000 for my cover. Like, that's just not doable for them. So I know, like, I am very lucky from that standpoint, because if I were doing this 20 years ago, I would be, in that same
Hmm.
place. So I'm not trying to, you know, make a bazillion dollars. I love doing this, and I want to find people that like reading my books, that enjoy them, and I want to do that for them. And if I can break even, I'd be happy with that.
Oh, I love that though. Um, what advice would you have for those? You're a debut, it's been a success. Those that want to follow in your footsteps, what advice would you give them?
Well, I think like my good friend, the one that said, hang up the phone right now and go start writing. I think that is what I would tell someone. Just start writing. And there really are tons of free resources out there, or very inexpensive resources, that if you're super committed and you want to learn, um, writing craft, because it is definitely a learned skill, not just the writing, but all of it, the structure, those rules you're talking about with romance. There has to be a happily ever after, and there might be a third act breakup, all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
There's tons of free resources available if you're just scrappy and you go look for them, and just go do it and just write.
Well, and I think too, I love that advice, but you're also brave. A lot of people
Oh
wouldn't.
yeah, no, you definitely have to be willing to put yourself out there. Yeah.
Well, and I think a lot of people aren't. It takes confidence. Nobody likes rejection. You said that you had reached out to bookstores, and how many ever, the numbers were, let's say you reached out to so many and not all of them responded, or it's hard to put yourself out there and be
Hey, the
subject to
bookstore
rejection.
down the street has still not picked up my book, and I'm a little bit miffed about that. I'm like, hey, look at this list of bookstores. I'm like a resident. Come on. So I hold out hope that they'll pick it up. But, when you get your first bad review, like, that hurts. Um,
Mhm.
and you got to go, it's okay, because I read a lot of books, and I'm like, that wasn't that great for me, but somebody might love it. And you have to, like, go, that this book wasn't for them, and that's okay, because I have found people who've read the book that I absolutely do not know. They're not family and they're not friends, who are like, I love this book, and I'm like, okay, there are readers out there that want to read my stuff, and that's the exciting part for me. But you have to be willing to take, some rejection with that. It's just par for the course, but it does hurt.
Well, I think that's good advice because when I do read my reviews, because what I'm looking for is criticisms that I can change, right?
Constructive criticisms, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I get kind of, this sounds terrible, but when they hate, I have two characters. Well, I think there's three that you either love them or hate them. I have one in each series. And so when they talk bad about the character, like, oh, I
Hmm.
can't stand her, I thought, okay, well, I did my job because I made her so real. You don't like her.
Yeah. And you elicited an emotion.
Yeah.
So, and you did that through your writing. And so what I have found is, like, universally, everybody loves my male main character. Like,
Hmm.
they're like on the book boyfriend train for Baird Campbell. So that's awesome. But I've gotten mixed feedback about my female main character, and, like, I have an idea about her personal arc through the series.
Yes.
So, like, I'm kind of okay with it. But what I find really interesting is some readers are like, she was, God, it took her a really long time to get where we thought she needed to get, like, right from the get go. And she
Yep.
was so conflicted, and she brought me down, and,
She's a
and
wet noodle.
yeah. And then other people are like, oh, she's such a strong character. And I'm like, because I'm like, I want to dig into the science of this. And I'm like, do we have different age demographics who have this view? Are they what these people generally read? Like the people who thought she was wishy-washy, like all they read is fantasy, where the female character is like super scrappy and
Yeah.
she's in some, she's
She's
riding
like,
a dragon, or,
charge.
she's, running around and stabbing people. Oh, hi, who are you? This is my name, whatever.
Yep.
Um, and so that's what they're expecting, or that's what they're conditioned to be looking for in a female character, versus, maybe these are romance readers, or they're historical fiction readers, or maybe they're older and they have different life experience. So what I'm interested is, where does that feedback come from, and what kind of informs it? Because it's just interesting to me, because I think if I can understand where that's coming from, one, I'll be able to expect the response I'm getting, but two, at least maybe I'll be aware of it. I don't know, it would change how I approach the character or change how I write, because like I write for, what I want, how I want the story to be told, and how I want my characters to evolve. But I just think kind of the psychology of it is really interesting.
It's fascinating with the one that's my most abrasive, and she is foul mouthed. She says what she wants. She's going around breaking noses and, racking guys in the soft parts. And so people will say, oh, I either am just like her,
Mm-hmm.
or I don't think there's ever been a female like her. And so it's, to me, it's what people can relate to. If you know someone in your life like this and they're
Mm-hmm.
your best friend, they're your girlfriend, right? They're your ride or die. You love that character. If you have someone in your world and they annoy you at every Christmas and Thanksgiving, you're like, oh, they're too much. You hate her. So I think some of that is like, what is are these characters already in their circle of influence or in their life?
Yeah. So one of the interesting things that my editor and I fought about a little bit was my female character. And I have a bit of a potty mouth in real life. And so like, I'm trying to like keep it together right now. But
Yeah, IG does not like that.
I
Instagram was
cuss
like,
like a
girl.
sailor. So, I'm trying to be on my best behavior. And I was writing her kind of the way I am.
Yeah.
And my editor, she's like, yeah, Mira's not a cusser. And she's like, I get it. There will be certain situations where that response, I can see her doing that, but
Yeah.
just the way you've written her, that's not who she is. And I was like,
Really?
well, I'm the author, really? But
Yeah.
I did write her kind of a little soft. Maybe she's going through a really tough time emotionally. She just lost her parents. Um, so maybe she's not, just cussing all the time. So I mean, we ended up with like some middle ground. There were some situations. She's like, yeah, she would cuss there. I got it. She's like, not there. So I ratcheted it back a little bit. But I'm like,
Well,
you know what? Damn it, lady. I'm going to write a character and she's going to be foul mouthed and you're going to take it. So I'm not there yet.
I'm going to tell you, I have written her and she will do and say the right
Whatever.
thing.
Yeah.
And it is so much fun. And then I thought, I'm going to write her again as a boy because I feel like with the male characters, we love the morally gray all the way over to the
Mm-hmm.
black. So we give them so much grace. I
Latitude.
one
Yeah.
who every other word is the F word. It's his personality and people. And I thought, oh God, I may be taking this too far. He has been my most popular character, period, hands down. People love him. And he is the darkest, the worst. So you need to.
Yeah. No.
You need to write that book.
So I'm having some fun with my kind of secondary female main
Yeah.
character in this book that I'm writing right now. And she's a little morally gray.
Nice.
And she rides the line between good and bad. And she's got a devil and an angel on either shoulder, and sometimes she goes either direction. So she's fun.
Your readers are going to love her.
I hope so.
So where can people find your book? Where can they find you online to keep ahead of all the updates on where you're coming with the next book?
Yeah. So the book right now is available on Amazon. and Kindle Unlimited. So if you're
Mhm.
Kindle Unlimited, you can read it for free. So go download it, put it on your TBR, read it at your leisure. Um, it's available if you want to order from Barnes and Noble. If you're in your Barnes and Noble and you want to tell them to carry my book and stock it, I would love for you to do that. Um, it's, like I said, available through the world's largest wholesaler, IngramSpark. So all of my bookstores, Thistle and Quill, Happily Ever After in Liverpool, Thistle and
Mhm.
Quills in Scotland, Intrigue is in Canada, in Ontario, Canada. Sage and Story is in Yuma, Arizona. Love Story, Oklahoma City. Reading Rabbit in Azle, Texas. I'm sure I've left something out. Oh, yes. So one of my besties. It's Romance. It's a brand new bookstore that's opening up in Coos Bay, Oregon. So you stop into any of those independent booksellers and check it out. They've got them in stock.
Evelyn reads everything. Says Mira's going to come out of her shell and be,
Yes. Yeah.
and be a total badass.
Evelyn's along for the ride. Yeah, with me. So
She's a ride or
she's
die.
definitely very, very involved.
Is she one of your super fans, readers?
She's a super fan, but she's also my PA. So, um,
Oh,
and
great.
I have to like hand it to her because she found me probably when I had 100 followers this summer. When I like just created another place you can find me is on Instagram at Rebecca Byron Books. My website RebeccaByron.com. But Evelyn found me when I had like maybe 100 followers. And she is an amazing hype woman, loves all things books. And she introduced me to a bunch of people who are probably some of my best friends now,
Wonderful.
that I've never met in person, but, like are those authors that I reached out to. I'm like, hey, I got a question. I need some feedback.
Yep.
And she's like just been such an amazing promoter. I mean, we're got almost 4,000 followers now, and I would say in large part that's been attributable to the efforts of Evelyn. So I got to give her like a super big hand for everything she's
Kudos.
done
Thank
for
you,
me. She's
Evelyn.
awesome.
Yes.
And I'm not the only author that she hypes and supports and helps out. So I'm just one of the lucky ones.
Oh, that's so sweet. Well, it's been past our hour, so
It's been
know
super fun.
I love it. I'd go longer, but this platform will cut you off.
I actually do have a cocktail too. So I didn't
Oh,
drink it though while we're talking.
it's
But
probably water.
in the spirit of full disclosure, like I was prepared.
Yeah, it's probably watered down. You probably have to get a new one.
Yeah, the ice cube is a little bit.
Well, when you have book two coming out, I would love to have you back, and then I want to hear the rest of the story and to get the behind the scenes, so that way I can have you on.
Awesome. I would love to do it.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you guys.
Ciao for now.
Bye.